All right, back with another Monday morning tier rankings. I always like to do these on Monday morning, get it out a little bit earlier than most people do them on Tuesday, which makes sense because there's games to be played, but I'll just throw the teams on the board that are yet to play. That's where I had them last week, so they will remain there. Also, sorry, I know my video is still a little bit choppy. I thought I had a way to fix it, and turns out I didn't, so still working on it, but yeah, let's get into the list. Titans, I mean, there's no denying it. They're stuck in the bad tier, and this team looks very bad. It's hard to even evaluate Cam Ward of how tough this situation looks right now. So, yeah, just a rough situation for them. The Cleveland Browns, I kept in scrappy after last week, and that feels fair. I think they could even move up if they do decide to make a quarterback change with one of the rookies playing instead of Flacco, who just is not having a great year. I mean, it might not be still in the cards for January Joe. Obviously a Super Bowl champion and all that, but they're struggling offensively. I do wonder if these young players look better if you get just a quarterback who can do a little more. I feel like Gabriel can't be worse, right? Defense is still very good, even if the Lions were ultimately able to finally power through like a battering ram there. The Jaguars, who I realized I accidentally forgot to add a tier, so let me add that real quick. Okay, I fixed that. The Jaguars were in the mid tier, and also you notice I do have a new tier at the top. We'll get into that once we get there. But I think this was a pretty impressive win from the Jaguars. I'm gonna bump up to solid. Their record is better than that. I'm still thinking maybe I could put them in feels like playoffs. I'll keep them solid for now, and we'll see how that goes. Because again, 3-1. I do really like Liam Cohen. I still haven't been crazy about Trevor Lawrence in this one, but they're running the ball effectively. They're covering really well. They're rushing the passer really well. They're playing good defense. Like, yeah, solid team. Want to see it in a bigger sample size, but they were able to beat a pretty solid 49ers team that, in fact, I'll keep them in this tier as well because I do feel like they have better stuff inside of them. I did have the 49ers feels like playoffs previously. I think I have to kind of bump them down to the Jaguars. So, yeah, I think that, again, you're still 3-1, and they've had a ton of injuries. Some of those players they will get back, but as of right now, I mean, a big part of it is Purdy has to protect the football better, and just offensively, they have to run the ball better, which is not something you usually say about a Kyle Shanahan team. The Lions, who I had in the dark horse tier, which is a busy tier, I feel like I have to bump them up, right? This is last year's Lions team, and last year's Lions team was the 1 seed, and if they didn't get ravaged by injuries, maybe win the Super Bowl. So this is a really good football team, and I counted them out badly after week 1, and that was just a mistake. They can hang with the best of them. So yeah, I think I bumped them up a tier every week, and I guess there still is room because I added a tier above Super Bowl contenders this week, which again we will get into. But the Vikings are next on the list. I had them as a solid team, and I don't think that's crazy. I think bumping them down to mid feels a little bit more reasonable, just because, like, I didn't think Wentz was horrible. Actually, that Wentz played all right in that game. Couple of kind of Steelers-y turnovers to make things work. Also, what could have been a turnover, Jordan Mason touched the ball, went out of bounds. Then Ramsey picked it up and went for a touchdown, but because Mason touched it while he was out of bounds, then the play was dead. But so there was that. Steelers find a way to get turnovers, but ultimately the Vikings defense just hasn't quite been the same this year. And so because of that, I think that bumping them down feels fair right now. Tampa Bay, if they played like they did in the first half, the whole game, they would be getting bumped down. But you know what? They hung with the Eagles in the second half. They held Jalen Hurts to 0 completions in the second half. Hurts went 0 for 8, which is pretty crazy. They held Saquon Barkley under 3 yards per carry. Some dumb mistakes with the blocked punt, a fumble by Bucky Irving, the tipped pass interception late. They don't make those mistakes. Maybe this is a different game, but again, the Eagles would have adjusted if that happens. So played a really good team who we'll talk about in just a second. So I think that the Buccaneers, dark horse, still feels like a fair tier for them. The Atlanta Falcons have been kind of all over the place this season. I've had them in feels like playoffs. I think I've had them in solid. I bumped them down all the way to mid after that disastrous loss against the Panthers. That feels like the anomaly. I do think this defense is still pretty good. I do think that Michael Penix, while he will make some mistakes, is still, playing good football. They're able to attack that defense. I still feel like solid for now feels fair. I can't say fully they feel like a playoff team just yet because of that Panthers loss. And they still do make mistakes. Even in the Commanders game, Michael Penix threw directly to a defender, which allowed the Commanders to get back in it. So, yeah, solid feels fair. The Baltimore Ravens, who I have been keeping in the top tier in Super Bowl contenders, and clearly that is just a mistake. I mean, I can't put them... Now I'm trying to figure out, do I keep them in feels like playoffs or solid? And I think I bumped them all the way down to solid. I think there's a couple things. For one, I'm not really worried about the Ravens offense. I know it's had some issues, but ultimately I think that, Lamar Jackson's not going to play as poorly as he did against the Chiefs for most of this. I think they'll be okay. But the defense and just how injured it is. They have 4 starters playing at this point. And okay, listen, that's great. You have a star quarterback. The Bengals have a star quarterback. They didn't make the playoffs last year. So, you do need the team around Lamar. We keep assuming the defense is going to put it together. But I think at this point, it's just too injured to put it together. So, I think they'll probably climb the rankings, but as of right now, because they do have an easier schedule after a couple more tough games, but as of right now, I can't, I don't know, maybe this is too harsh, but I think I was probably too high on them previously. So, yeah, don't often see 4 tiers dropped here, but 4-tier drop, but that is what's happening. And then the Bears, I guess every team is solid because I kept them in solid. I can't bump them down. They won. It wasn't a super impressive win against a Raiders team I don't think is great, but a win is still a win. So, yeah, solid feels fair there. The Dallas Cowboys, who tie the Green Bay Packers, I think I just got to keep bumping up this tier. I mean, yeah, I had them in mid last week. I think bumping them up to solid feels a little bit better. They do have a really good offense. This defense is horrible, but they also have great special teams. That's an underrated aspect, not just with their awesome kicker Aubrey, but they also have Turpin, who's a really good kick returner. So you have a lot of that stuff, but this defense is so bad, despite an awesome offense and awesome special teams. They've only won 1 game this season. The Houston Texans are next, who, hey, you got the win. I had them in mid last week. I still think this defense is really good. The offense I still have issues with. I'm going to keep them in mid. They're definitely closer to solid. And quite frankly, if there wasn't so many solid teams, I think maybe I would put them there, but I kind of try and not overload one tier too much. So we'll keep them in mid for now, but definitely trending upwards. I know it gets a team that's not very good, but they won 26-0. That has to count for something. So yeah, I'll keep them there, but I'm feeling better about them than I was. Huge game against Baltimore, who is 1 tier ahead. We'll see how that goes. The Colts, I had in the dark horse tier, and I think I'm going to keep them there. I know they lost, but they made some dumb mistakes, and if they don't make those dumb mistakes, Adonai Mitchell dropping the ball at the 1-yard line, trying to celebrate and switching hands and then losing the handle on the ball. And he also had a flag late in the game that called back a 50-yard touchdown. You don't make those mistakes. Maybe the touchdown doesn't happen without that holding, but still, you don't make those mistakes. And this is potentially a different game. They had 10 players on the field for the Rams' big touchdown. That's not ideal. They played very tight. And for the Rams, I'm going to keep them in the same tier. I think both feel like teams that could go a long way. This Rams team, in fact, they might be closer to Super Bowl contenders than I'm giving them credit for. I still feel like I have some issues with the secondary right now, so I will keep them in dark horse, but they're definitely a team that, again, dark horse means a team I could easily see potentially winning it all. That's how I view them. So the Chargers are next. I bumped them up to Super Bowl contenders last week, and then they definitely let me down. Got to bump them back down to dark horse. Did not love what I saw from this offense. Now they have both tackles are injured for the time being at the very least. Their receiving core looked like last year's receiving core at times. A lot of drop passes, which isn't what you want. I think Herbert still played well despite the bad box score. And the defense is still very good. So still dark horse. Let's not freak out, but definitely a bad week 4 for them. The Raiders, who have just not been great, and I had them in mid, and I don't know. I think I'll keep them in. Well, I don't know, because I don't feel like. I think I'm just going to drop them down, because Geno Smith's thrown more interceptions than touchdowns at this point. That's not good. Ashton Genty's very good, but I don't love this Raiders defense either. So if you're not passing the ball efficiently, even if they can get numbers, even if they didn't last week, the running game worked last week, but it's not going to work consistently because they can't run block, and now Colton Miller is hurt. Yeah, Scrappy that's where I have to have him. It just is. The Commanders I've been keeping in feels like playoffs, but I don't think I can do that now, right? Especially with Marcus Mariota out there, they don't cover well at all. So the solid tier has kind of become like I don't know if I can even put them there. With Mariota, they are mid. If Jaden Daniels comes back, I'll put them in solid. But for now, Mariota, I think mid feels fair because they can't cover very well. I know that they're not fully healthy, but no team is, right? They're really struggling to cover. Their starting players are struggling right now defensively. And, again, Atlanta, a team that had been struggling offensively against everybody, able to torch you. That's not ideal. I do think this offense is pretty good. With Daniels, they can maybe outscore some of their problems, but they have problems right now. The Chiefs, well, I knew at a certain point I was keeping them in dark horse for a while. You knew they'd climbed their way back up into real Super Bowl contenders right here. This is a team that, with Xavier Worthy back, he looked good. Travis Kelce looked good. Admittedly against like a JV squad defensively for the Ravens, who obviously have had their injuries, but still, a dominant win is a dominant win, and their defense completely smothered Lamar Jackson. So yeah, let's bump them up a tier. Let's get them back to Super Bowl contenders. The Saints, I've been keeping them bad. Again, they showed fight in that game. I still think bad feels fair. They're 0-4, have been blown out against the Seahawks. Still lost by 12 in this game. Again, it is what it is. Saints aren't a great team. How about the Giants, though, who were in scrappy? Let's bump them up a tier. Why not? They beat a good Chargers team. You had Jackson Dart with some nice rushes in that game. Their defense honestly played really well. I think that this feels fair to have them in this tier. They're still 1-3. We'll see what they can do in the post-Russell Wilson era. But yeah, for now, that's where I have them. The Philadelphia Eagles, they're one of the teams to beat. Top tier here. Figured I'd do this just because I feel like there are a couple teams that feel maybe a step above right now. And one of those is the Philadelphia Eagles, who have, really impressed me. They can win in so many different ways. And sure, we can say, Jalen Hurts, no passing yards in the second half. Well, he was great in the first half. He was a big part of why they got up as much as they did at that point. So you're still wanting to get more of a run game going, but they can win in so many different ways. And Tampa Bay stops to run against everybody. They're the team to beat in the NFC. And you know what? Let's go to the AFC and let's put the other one, the Buffalo Bills. The two 4-0 teams. I feel like this feels fair to give them their own tier at this point. The Bills, Josh Allen's playing great football. Still, again, the coverage thing is a little bit concerning as of right now, but they are going to get Maxwell Harrison back at some point. So, we'll keep them there. The Steelers, who really good win. I'm going to put them in feels like playoffs again. This is where I had them after week 1. They've kind of bumped down a little bit with some underwhelming games since then, but back in the feels like playoffs. This feels like the Steelers team that you were hoping for if you're a Steelers fan going in, right? Run the ball effectively. Rodgers can make the plays, be a facilitator. If he has to throw down the field, he can, but mostly it's just throwing, these quick passes, getting the ball out of his hands quickly, reading the defense and knowing what side of the ball to run towards and things like that. Does that very well. And they play good defense. Really bounce back defensive game here for the Steelers. Took their foot off the gas towards the end, but still, hey, good job by them. The Packers are a tough team to talk about. So I had them in Super Bowl contenders, which was the top tier for a while. I then have bounced them back to dark horse. I'm going to keep them here for now. I think I have the hardest time understanding who they are compared to any other team. Weeks 1 and 2 couldn't have been more impressive. Possibly most impressive 2-week stretch any team has had up until this point when you factor in quality of opponent with the Lions and the Commanders dominant wins. Then they lose to the Browns, who I have in the scrappy tier, and then they tie the Cowboys, who I do have in the solid tier, but still, it felt like those were two games that they could have won, and they didn't win either. Disappointing, but also the good stretch is still there, so yeah, it's hard to figure out totally. Panthers, I had in scrappy after that win. Well, that was a mistake. Turns out that was just a weird game. They're back in bad. The Cardinals, I had them in solid. I'm going to keep them in solid. I think that getting the Marvin Harrison thing figured out could go a long way. They did kind of get that figured out in the fourth quarter. Kyler's still playing very well despite some not great numbers, but Seattle was a little better. And for Seattle, I kept them in feels like playoffs. I'm going to keep them here for now. They could climb their ladder. They could jump up wrong on the ladder, but for now, really good defense. Sam Darnold's playing really well. I don't think it's crazy that they can potentially improve. So, yeah, there's that. And then the New England Patriots, who I had in scrappy, but hey, a nice win against admittedly a bad Panthers team. I'll bump them up to mid right now. They've still lost games in stupid ways up until this point, so got to do that. I know Kyle is saying, hey, maybe a playoff team. Maybe. I don't think it's crazy. Again, they could climb the ladder, but for now, that is where I will put them. So that is my tier list. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think? I probably didn't have to break up these top two, right? I could have kept them those 4-1 tier. Maybe next week we'll get rid of the teams to beat. But yeah, that's just how I feel for now. So it's just for fun anyway. So those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.